Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Wetherz' weekly roundup on StocksFC. And today, once again, talking about the IPOs of last week, seeing how well they've done, moving on to the next week's IPOs, and then just any other general things I'll chat about StocksFC. So hopefully you enjoy the episode. So let's get into it. First off, we're going to start with Dan Burn, because I don't think I'll forget the rest. So Dan Burn sold a total, we won't include the share burn that's happened since then, so 7,591 shares at IPO. He sold probably in line with where I thought he would. He was obviously a very cheap price, so it could go either way. Unfortunately, though, he's picked up a pretty not a mega serious back injury, but it seems to be like a problematic back injury. So he might be a little bit shit for the foreseeable, as he's not going to be playing any games. And also there's, Newcastle, they're a growing club. He does seem like he could be a bit replaceable. I did buy some. I bought 50 just because, he's a tall lad. He can always get a goal, especially with the limited amount of players on the platform at the moment. Until we actually get all of the Premier League players and, starting 11 from basically every team, he's always got a chance of getting into the team of the week. But he will have to compete at least with Kieran Trippier. I know there's 3 defensive slots, but Trippier's always going to be ahead of him, you'd imagine, if he gets the clean sheet. So they both get the clean sheet. Newcastle win, for example. But you'd expect Trippier just to naturally get key passes. So it's going to be a little bit hard for Dan Burn to get into Team of the Weeks. But, you never know. Anyway, sold sort of decent amount. Moving on to Wetherz. Now, Wetherz, 5,755. I think this is actually I think he could have done better. I think he's a decent player. Ivan Toney's going to be leaving Brentford, it seems like, at least. He's sort of the second man to Mbeumo. He's got a goal in him. Brentford, to me, seem like a pretty stable Premier League club these days. I wouldn't be picking them to get relegated anytime soon. Their recruitment seems very good as well, throughout the years. So you'd imagine that will keep going. He's down as a midfielder, which for me, I'd think of him more as a forward than a midfielder. But at that supply and at that price point, I think he's a decent little buy. And for me, I picked up 50, and I'm very happy with that. I thought he could have sold a little bit more, sort of gone under the radar a bit. I don't know if people have been put off because Mbeumo sort of struggled to go up in price, and he's also another Brentford asset. But obviously the supply difference between Brent and Mbeumo, who I think did 32,000 compared to 5,755, it's quite a big difference. And I'm actually quite bullish about Wetherz, so that's good. And then moving on to Luis Diaz to finish things off. I think he undersold. I was looking, if I was going to predict it, I would have said that he should be selling about 22,000 shares. Now he's only sold 13,591. Or 92. For me, this shows that, even new users now at this point, what are we, about 5 months into the platform's first launch, you can still get players at a brilliant price from IPO, big players as well. We're not just talking about shitters, we're talking about a very, very good player in Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz, he's 26, I believe. So he's got multiple years left. He's sort of at the top level for a top club who competes in Europe every season, basically. For me, 12,000 market cap. I could have easily seen him, sort of over 20,000 market cap. Like I said, thought he could have sold 22,000 shares, 92 pence the token price. Yeah, I picked up 150. Really like him. I think he's a really good price, so absolutely no sort of desire to try flip him at the moment. I think I'm surprised at how few he sold, but I know the market has been struggling a little bit recently, or people have sort of been giving me that impression. My portfolio hasn't actually struggled. People have been going on about it's been flat or slightly declining for about 4 weeks. I've not seen that. My port has been going up for the majority of that time. I think a few days ago it did dip because I was around that 10 ETH mark, and now I've dropped down to sort of 9 point. I dropped down to like 9.1 ETH, but now I'm back up at 9.5 ETH. So we're moving upwards. But I trade probably a bit more than everyone else. But and then moving on to next week's IPOs. So we have Leno, Schlupp, and Timmerkas. Now, for me, it's not the best week. I think we all want to agree with that. I think Leno is actually a good shout. Doesn't have Europe, but when Fulham get the clean sheet and win, he also tends to make quite a few saves, or he did last season. Had high save percentage. So for me, yeah, I think Leno could be like an underrated one. He could do quite well this season. You wouldn't expect him to get into team of the season basically ever, because he hasn't. I don't see him playing for Germany anytime soon, and I don't see Fulham get him into Europe anytime soon. I'd be more sort of expecting Fulham to get relegated than to get into Europe personally. But for me, Fulham, relatively safe Premier League club. I'm a little bit, I'm a bit worried about Fulham personally, but I think a lot more people are a bit more confident in them than I am. I think he's a decent one. I think he could be good value, especially if he continues to sell, at this rate, he's at 2,200. If he doesn't sell great, I think he could be a good little value player who goes under the radar. I'll probably pick up 25 or 30 of him. That was my strategy with all goalies. Just wanted to get a few of them, like 20, 30 sort of amount. That's what I mean by a few. And have all the goalies, and then you win every week, basically, at least one position in team of the week. But they don't excite me, so I'm not going to put a large amount into him. Schlupp, moving on. I'm not particularly inspired by Schlupp. He has sort of become a starter at Crystal Palace these days, but he's played up front for Leicester. He's played at wing back for Leicester. He's played at wing back for Palace. He's now moved into like a centre midfield role. He's got a lot of energy about him, but for me, he's got the occasional goal in him as well. So he can possibly get into team of the weeks this season, especially whilst there's a limited pool of players. And obviously going forwards, he's always capable of scoring 2 goals, any player is, basically, in the Premier League. But it's a pretty poor IPO. And then we move on to Timmerkas, who is probably the best time to IPO him. I think Robertson's out for 2 to 3 months with either a shoulder or arm injury sort of thing, collarbone maybe. So you might as well IPO him whilst Timmerkas is going to start games, because I don't see there being a point where he's a starter in the Premier League in this next 2 years, whilst we're IPOing the Premier League players. So, and long term, Timmerkas, maybe you could see him leaving Liverpool and then ended up at a mid Premier League club, possibly. That's sort of the best case scenario. 55p. He'll be a Liverpool asset. He's a fullback who I think are better than centre backs. So for the next few weeks, he could actually do quite well. Van Dijk's been doing well. Liverpool's sort of been a little bit better defensively, conceding less goals recently. So, yeah. He's an easy player to skip, though, isn't he? I think Schlupp's quite an easy player to skip. I think Timmerkas is quite an easy player to skip. And even Leno, I think quite a few people will be like, nah, he's not in Europe, so why bother? So there could be good value here this week. It's not the most inspiring. It's not the most, but I'm not mad about it, to be honest. I think Leno's good. I think Timmerkas is pretty good in the circumstances with the amount of games he's going to play for the next, 2 months or so. And Schlupp's a bit of a stinker, but we've got to IPO these stinkers at some point, and yeah, why not now, to be honest. Let's go into the reward pots. So I haven't looked at the reward wallets. So we had the payout yesterday, because I'm recording this on the Wednesday. So these have actually dropped by 5% compared to yesterday. So it'll go up a bit until the Tuesday payout. But we're in pretty good stead at 74th, basically 75,000 for the Team of the Week wallet as of today, and we've got all the IPOs basically money to go back into it. 71,000 for the in-play, and Team of the Month also has topped up really nicely recently. And then we'll jump into the staking wallet. We're at 22.5 ETH, so we are 10 ETH away from the second validator node, 9.5 ETH away actually, which would be cool. And then anything else I want to talk about? I think Alex put a message in the Discord about Starman, so it looks like we're going to be getting a Starman by the start of next season. How they're going to integrate it, I don't know, but it will obviously give value to the better players who end up finishing top. I say that, I do say that, but I think Mitrovic would have won it twice already. So it's not necessarily the best player. It's just certain times, if an international player plays a terrible international side, you can easily win Starman. So it's not just the best players, but that to me is a good step. It's not something that I was particularly banking on. But I think now that Starman's sort of been, it looks like it's going to be announced, it's something that you need to bear in mind when you're building your portfolios, because you obviously want to win that reward as much as possible. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. And yeah, see ya.